Okay, I'm going to tell you the story about how I became Muslim. And I've never really completely told anybody this before. The only person that really knows everything is my best friend who brought me to Islam, alhamdulillah. Um, but I mean, some people that convert or revert always tell their story and they're excited to, but I've just never told anybody really. I mean, I've probably given people like the fast version, like, just to explain it and be done. But like the real, way that I came to Islam, I've never told anyone before, so that's what I will do today. And I don't know how to even begin, so I will just start at like the beginning of my life. So I grew up in a small town, and my family was Christian. I have a younger brother and an older sister. My parents have been married for like 50 years. Not that long, but like it's been a long time. Growing up, my life was pretty typical. I remember being stressed out a lot as a kid, more than I think kids should be. My family owned a business, and it had its ups and downs. And I just remember, I didn't have like a typical upbringing. I worked a lot. I started working for my family when I started to walk, like all of us kids did. So my family was really close. Something that happened in my childhood that really kind of shaped me, when I was young, one afternoon I remember I was at home with my mom. It was just me and my mom, and she has always had a heart condition that she's I wouldn't say she struggled with it, but it has, she has anxiety attacks, and she, just has these issues that, she's always had them. And so me and my mom were home alone one day, and she was on the phone with her sister, and my mom dropped the phone and like went to the ground, and I was like, it was one of the first memories I have as a child. I think I was like 5 or 6, I don't know. And she was having an anxiety attack and having like heart palpitations, and it was terrifying, so I had to, call for help. I had to go get my dad, and like I remember from that day on, like I was so afraid to leave my mom's side. Like growing up, I never hardly ever spent the night at friends' houses, went to sleepovers, went to birthday parties. I was just so scared to leave my mom's side, because I didn't want anything to happen to her. It's like when you're growing up and you're a kid and your mom gets sick, it's like, she's the mama bear. She takes care of you, and she's, when she's down, it's really sad. And, being there with her and having that happen, I think it really kind of like shook me. So all through, grade school and junior high and high school, I was never the type of kid, like, I never went to parties. I think I went to like 1 or 2 parties in high school. Like, I didn't drink. Not to sound full of myself, but I was like a really good kid. Like, I stayed home and I helped my mom clean. I helped her when she went to work. She owned a cleaning business, and I would go clean houses with her and clean offices, and, just really, she's my best friend. I spent all my time with her. My family is Christian. I was raised Christian, but we never went to church growing up. I think I can count on one hand how many times I ever went to church. But we prayed every night. My mom was and is very spiritual, and she's a great woman. So she, would help us, tell us to say our prayers at night, and I had read the Bible. So after I graduated college, after I graduated high school, I went to college. I went to a university that was about 2.5 hours from where I grew up, and that was the first time I would ever like really been on my own and been away from my family. My sister went to school there, which is why I kind of chose to go to that school. And when I got there, I wouldn't say that's where it started, but I definitely like broke out and became like a whole different person. I grew up in a small town, never went out, never did much, and then I come to college, and there's like all these new people, there's all this new stuff to do. I found a fake ID, and I started going out with my friends. I wasn't old enough to drink. I was like just turned 18, and I started going out a lot. I started drinking a lot, and it was just like, at the time it was new and it was fun, and I was just like out of control. But I mean, I think that's how a lot of college kids are when they first get there, and especially when you grow up, the way that I did, you don't see much. So once you get to somewhere new, it's anyway. So I went to school and I studied criminal justice. I thought I wanted to work in like the legal field. So after that year of college, I moved back home and I worked at a law office. I worked there all summer, and then I decided to move to the city that I live in now because my sister had graduated college and she needed a roommate, and I was sick of living in my hometown and I wanted to go somewhere fun, exciting. And so I moved to Kansas City with my big sister. That was kind of scary because then I was really on my own. I was even further away from my family. But I ended up finding a job at a law firm in the city, and I worked there for about a year and a half. And while I was working there, I hadn't really started going out a lot. I didn't know anybody that lived there. I was still underage. I think I was like 19 when I started working there. I became friends with a Palestinian family that were clients of one of the attorneys at the office, and they were just always like the most friendly people. They always came in for their legal matters for their business, whatever. Just very friendly, and I didn't know any Muslims before then. The only time I had heard of Islam was during 9/11 when I was sitting in my classroom in high school and everything was happening. We were watching it on the news. Like I don't even think I ever knew what a Muslim was or had ever heard about Islam until then. And so I knew they were Muslims, but I was like, you have this idea of what you think they are, like they're scary, they're mean, they're terrorists, but then I met them and I was like, oh my gosh, like they're very, very kind people, like very sweet. So I'm just going to kind of fast forward a little bit just to get this going. So I'm working at the law office, and I started having problems there with some of the attorneys. They were kind of harassing me. I wanted to find a new job. I looked for another job, and I was still really young to be working in the field that I was. I was really lucky that I got the job that I had gotten in the city. I tried to find other jobs at law firms, but everyone said I was too young and I wasn't, whatever. It was very hard to find another job. But I ended up finding a job at a club. And so I had started working there. I quit my job at the law office without telling my sister because I knew that she'd probably be pretty mad at me for doing that. But I was just really unhappy there and I had to get out. So I started working at this club and, making a lot of money and around people all the time, made a lot of friends that actually were not friends of mine at all. And so with that comes, I started drinking, going out a lot more now that I knew people and I had new places to go. I was going out like 5 nights a week at least, some weeks like 6 nights a week. And it started as just drinking. I was drinking a lot. And then I started doing drugs as well. And I was never like addicted to drugs. I think the reason that I did them was because as time went on, I don't know, maybe it was like a quarter life crisis, I don't know, but I just felt like extremely lost. I didn't feel like I had any really close friends there. By this time, my sister had kicked me out of our apartment together because she found out that I was going out so much and I was doing drugs, and but I had enough money on my own to get my own place, and so I moved to a studio apartment downtown. And my sister had told my parents about what happened, what was going on with me, and that was when I started to change. Like, I wasn't the sweet girl that I knew I was, that I'd always been growing up helping my mom, always there for my family. It got to the point where, I was angry at my sister. I quit talking to her first. And then it ended up being where I had no contact with my family whatsoever. And at the time I felt like, oh, I don't care, whatever. I'm just trying to, make it on my own, and they don't know what they're talking about. But, when you don't have family, like you really don't have anybody, because no matter how good your friends are, no matter, your family is always going to be there for you. And at the time, that was not important to me. I didn't think that was whatever. And so, so I started doing drugs, and I think the reason that I did them was because I was so unhappy. It was kind of like the only way that I could escape the way that I felt, like, how bad I felt about myself, was to do drugs. The problem is that when you do drugs, it takes you from regular life, makes you feel great, and then you drop. And then you do it again, takes you up, and then you drop. And like little by little, it just destroys your life. I lost a lot of weight. I mean, I'm a pretty tall girl. I'm 5'8", 5'9", and I weighed like 95 pounds. I was just so unhappy. I remember just being like, and I was out and I was around people. It wasn't like I was alone, because every night I was around so many people, and I was just trying to keep up with everyone else around me. I didn't have my family anymore. And it just, my self-esteem was, I don't know. I completely lost myself. I remember one time, I was standing in my bathroom in my apartment, and I was like looking at myself in the mirror, and like I completely did not know who I was. And I just felt like, so sorry for the person that I saw, because I knew that that wasn't me. And I knew, that like there was the bad me and then there was the good me, and it was like the good me was looking down on the bad person, like, what are you doing to yourself? Like, what have you done? I mean, there were mornings I remember, there were times when I would not sleep. Like, there were days that I went without sleeping. And I remember just sometimes I would just be laying in bed the morning after I had been out. I'd been up all night just laying in my bed, like, feeling like I was about to have a heart attack, from the effects of the drugs. And I was just like, I didn't care if I died, like at the worst point in my life, like I was ready to die, because even if you're an attractive person, or if you have friends, or you have money, like if you don't have a sense of who you are, and if you don't have, pride, and you don't love yourself, and, love God, nothing that you have is going to matter. And this is why I don't tell people my story, because I feel like people look at me and they see, oh, she wears hijab, she, I don't think that people take me seriously as a Muslim, because I am a girl and I'm from the Midwest, and I, talk this way, and I'm, whatever. I don't think people really, nobody understands like what I went through. I remember when I became Muslim, a lot of the people in my community, they thought I worked for the FBI. They didn't even believe that I was a real Muslim, which really hurt. It's like, and also part of me wants to keep my story to myself, because it does mean so much to me that, that God helped me so much, and I still wonder, like, why would God want to help me? Because I was such a bad person. Like, I'm not even scratching the surface of how lost I was, and like what a horrible, selfish person that I had become. Just because I don't want to, it's embarrassing for me, So during all this time, when I got heavy into drugs, and I was, just completely out of control, the only person that I did stay in contact really was my Muslim friend. He always checked in on me to make sure that I was okay. Even when my family had kind of given up on me, they tried to have like an intervention, and talk to me, and I drove down to my family's house one night, and it took me 3 hours to get there. I get there, and they start to, have this like intervention, and I got back in my car right away and drove back. So I was completely hopeless, and I don't know why, like, he, like, even spent any time on me, because everybody else had completely shut me out, or I in a sense, I shut myself out. It was what I was doing that caused, all the problems that I was having.